Good afternoon, Israel Briefers, and welcome to another edition of the Israel Brief with me, Rolly Marks, where you guys join me every Monday to Thursday to take a look at those top stories making the headlines in the Holy Land. Now, of course, there is a good reason why you guys join me. I hope it's my company, but it is because people are really starting to distrust the legacy media, and boy, do I have a story about that coming up a little later in the show. A reminder that the Israel Brief is brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land, and if you would like to receive our weekly newsletter, please be in touch with us via our website. Those details coming up. If you have a question, and today we have two questions from the audience, please be in touch either via our social media or via our website. And of course, tomorrow is Mentions and Morons Day. So guys, get your nominations through to me as soon as you can so I can bring you your choice for the mensch and the moron, or the menches and the morons of the week. Now, today is day 761 since the 7th of October. We are still very much in the first phase of President Trump's peace plan, and we still have 7 hostages whose remains need to come home for a dignified burial. Out of the 7 hostages, we still have our brother from Thailand who came to work in Israel, whose remains are being held, and the remains of Tanzanian agricultural student Joshua Molel. Bring all of them home now. I know that for a lot of people, they say they have moved on from the hostage crisis because the living hostages have returned to Israel. For us in Israel, every single life, the living and the deceased, is absolutely sacred. So let's get into the top story, and a lot of concern about the new winner, or the new mayor of New York. 34-year-old Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani beat Andrew Cuomo to win the mayoral election last night. He is the youngest mayor in New York. Now, there are a lot of concerns about Zoran Mamdani, his lack of experience, his lack of self-awareness, making all these promises about things for free, his antagonistic stance towards the NYPD, the New York Police Department, the fact that he is a socialist and even some might say communist in the world's most foremost capitalist city. But for the Jewish community and for Israel is very much his attitude towards Jews, towards Israel. He is very controversial, and we are quite stunned at the amount of Jews in New York who voted for him. You can't replace experience, and you can't replace just the importance of the bigger picture in favor of somebody who's 34 years old, because you think that there needs to be a more youthful energy. The Israeli politicians across the political spectrum have expressed their concern. Our Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell said earlier today, is concern that he's a mayor that targets Jews instead of protects Jews at a time where we have an astronomical rise of anti-Semitism around the world. And it's not only coming from the jihadists, it is also coming from the left, and it is coming from the right. And as I said to somebody earlier today, it almost feels like we pincered in with hate on every conceivable front. And this is why I really appeal to you, our community, please to raise your voices against rising Jew hatred. Now, Zoran Mamdani has made very controversial comments in the past, including calling Israel's war against Hamas a genocide. He has also said he will review all trade and tourism agreements through the lens of BDS. BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions Movement. He also very controversially called to globalize the Intifada and had to very quickly walk that back. But the alarm bells are ringing, and we are very, very concerned. In his concession speech, Andrew Cuomo said that there will be no tolerance for behavior that fans the flames of anti-Semitism. The mayoral elect Mamdani has also declared war on President Trump, saying that we toppled a political dynasty, and he said to President Trump, turn the volume up, and things are going to get very interesting, need I say more. Last night, Israel received home the remains of Itai Chen. Itai was killed defending the Nahal Oz base on the 7th of October. He was part of Team Peretz, or Tsevet Peretz, led by Daniel Peretz, who we laid to rest just a few weeks ago. He was also part of the team that included Matan Angrest, who was returned alive. And in a very, very moving message, Matan said, I have never stopped thinking of you, Itai. You are finally returned, brother. Itai is the last of the American hostages to be returned. He was lauded by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as President Trump, and we hold his family in our hearts, in our prayers. Itai, you are home, buried in the soil you defended with your life, that you loved so much. May your memory be a blessing. And to the Chen family, we hold you in our love and in our prayers. Now, the IDF Chief of Staff has said that there will be only one condition for the release of about 200 Hamas terrorists who are trapped in Rafah, and that is the release of the remains of fallen soldier Hadar Golden, who fell in Operation Protective Edge in 2014. Hamas has held his remains for over 11 years, and the IDF chief said, give us those remains and we will release the 200 trapped terrorists. Now, you guys like to come to the Israel Brief for your news from Israel, and we've seen certainly over the last couple of years this exponential growth of non-traditional media. People like myself, people like other journalists like Aaron Molan, people like Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, and so many others who are taking to YouTube, starting our own channels, starting our own podcasts in order to bring you the news that is not controlled by ideology or agenda. When I bring you the news, warts and all, it is fresh off the presses in Israel. And it is because so many of you tell me you cannot trust the legacy media. And here yet again, we have another story about, guess who? Repeat offender, the BBC. Now, this is quite extraordinary. This is an expose that's running in the Telegraph in the UK, and I really advise you to go on the Telegraph's YouTube channel. There's a short clip about the BBC and one of the stories that has been exposed. And what the whistleblower, Michael Prescott, who worked at the BBC and who has compiled this dossier, what he says is actually extremely damning. He says the BBC pushed Hamas's narrative, Hamas lies, he says, he calls them lies, in order to paint Israel as the aggressor and to downplay Israeli suffering. He says, especially with regards to BBC Arabic, he says they attempted to plant Hamas narrative that really paints the Jewish state as the aggressor, and that a lot of what Hamas put out went unchallenged. And he cited a particular incident that really, really chills me to the bone. The BBC put out a broadcast, which of course was picked up by Sky News and others, and many of Israel's detractors, that supposedly discovered a mass grave with the corpses of Palestinians with their hands tied behind their back. Now, they put this broadcast out without fact checking. And when it was investigated, and of course everybody rushed to blame the IDF, and you know, we see the ramifications of misinformation, like the attack where 2 Jews were killed at the Heaton Park Synagogue on Yom Kippur in Manchester this year. We've seen violence and hate speech against Jews in the streets of major cities. And a lot of this you can tie directly back to news broadcasts. And we've brought you so many stories from the BBC where they have completely violated their own impartiality and pushed Hamas's agenda. The Al-Ali Hospital issue, the documentary that featured the family members of Hamas, and now this particular story. And when they did the investigation, when this story was eventually investigated by independent journalists, it was found that it is likely that it was Palestinians, whether they be Hamas or other factions, that murdered these Palestinians and buried them in a mass grave. It was not the IDF, but the damage is done. Now, these issues of breach of impartiality and misreporting was raised to management, who have not remedied this. And this is, I think, the umpteenth whistleblower we've heard from the BBC, somebody who used to work there, who has spoken about institutionalized anti-Israel or, quite frankly, rank Jew hatred. And this is why you guys are coming here. Hey, I'm not complaining, but we still need to hold institutions like the BBC, who is a public broadcaster, who is tax funded, to account. And finally, yesterday I brought you the story that Israel will be dispatching teams to Jamaica to help communities there that have been devastated by Hurricane Melissa. Well, today Israel dispatched our medical team, headed by the Deputy Director of the Ministry of Health, as well as the Director of Shaare Tzedek Hospital. Now, the team comprises of about 30 doctors, nurses, and paramedical crew from hospitals around the country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has also dispatched our ambassador to the Dominican Republic. His name is Ruslan Abu Ruhun. You can obviously hear that's a Muslim name, so no apartheid here in the state of Israel. And a diplomatic team who will liaise with the Jamaican government for the coordination of this humanitarian aid. So guys, those are your headlines. Let's take a look at your questions rather. And the first one comes from Stephen, who says, what has happened to the boats from the flotilla? Well, good question, Stephen. All we know is that the boats have been impounded by the police. We don't know what further purpose, if they will be used for anything. We just know that they have been impounded by the police. And if I hear of anything more, you can absolutely bet your bottom dollar, I will tell you. And the second comes from Hillary, who says, what is being done to get hostages back? Is Trump still involved? Well, Trump's negotiating team, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and the others, very, very much involved, putting the pressure on Hamas to release the last remaining hostages. As I said, I think it was yesterday, we cannot proceed to phase 2 of the ceasefire until we receive all of our hostages back, which is why, as I said, it's a stalling tactic by Hamas to draw it out as long as possible. But President Trump very much involved. This is his baby, and his team's on the ground. So I hope that answers your question, Hillary. And that's it from me for today, guys. But please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. We're growing, so if you like this content, please hit that subscribe button and also share. Welcome to our new community members on Instagram. I know a lot of people are going there to watch. On Facebook at Lottle's site, I see those numbers are increasing. We're on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, on Substack at Rolene Marks. And guys, Thank you so much for joining me for today. Get those mentions and morons to me. And shalom from the neighborhood dog and from the hubs who has the Rona. And guys, I will catch you again tomorrow. Bye for now.